This is the Roller Coaster Podcast, and I'm your host, Lucy Q. Life is a wild ride. It has twists and turns. It's scary, exciting, and downright fun. So throw your head back, arms in the air, and come along with me for the ride.
Life is like a roller coaster, baby, baby. I wanna ride.
Okay, before we get started, check out nectargrowth.com. nectargrowth.com. It's free to join, but not for long. Nectar is an extension of the roller coaster. It's where you can start your own journey of self-exploration and growth. In Nectar, you'll find different topics of interest, daily blogs, affirmations, journal prompts, and you can connect with some of the fantastic coaches that have been on the roller coaster. Soon, we'll be adding videos, meditations, live discussions, and events. Our signature course is a journey of self-improvement, and it's valued at $397. But once you join, it's available to you at no cost. So if you're feeling stuck, if you feel like you need to change and not sure where to start with Nectar Growth Network. Come join us. You know you're worth it. Now, let's get on with today's show. Inner greatness. It's something that we all have. Some people are able to tap into theirs at an early age. Some, me included, take a little bit longer to get there. And sadly, others never get there. So what's the difference? Why can some people tap into it or reveal it through an inner journey and others can't or don't? Joining me today is Robert Riopel, who went from being stressed and in debt to the tune of $150,000 to financial freedom at the age of 32. Today, we're going to chat about the clues that helped him turn things around and how you can too. Hi, Robert.
Hey, Lucy, how are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
It is a beautiful day, and we've already had a great conversation off recording, so I know we're going to have just a little bit of fun.
A little bit of fun. So let's go back to that point when you didn't just realize you're $150,000 in debt. You kind of see that train coming. But that moment where you kind of go oh shit, to the financial freedom.
Yeah, and I call that the oh shit mode. That's exactly what I call those. I call those moments that, right? Yeah, because now today, as an example, one of the things I love to do is I'm a breakthrough expert, and so when I do trainings around the world, I actually have put thousands of people across 36-foot hot coal walking on fire, and where the coals are 1,200, 1,700 degrees Fahrenheit. And when I'm prepping them and getting people ready, and it's revealed what we're about to do, because no one knows up until the point. And all of a sudden I see the looks on their faces. I said, now some of you just entered into that oh shit mode, didn't you? And they're like,
no, oh shit was not the word I had in mind. It was another 4-letter word. That's a no.
Well, I'll tell you though, it's interesting. And I'm sure we'll have a conversation on this, because one of the people I got to teach was one of my brother-in-laws. And when I taught him years ago, and he did 36 feet of walking, then it impacted his life so much, he actually became what's called a fire master, the person who can build the lanes, do them properly so that, I know this sounds weird, it's safe as possible to walk on fire. And today, he actually holds the Guinness Book of World Records for the longest fire walk. He's up to over 500 feet of fire walking.
Okay, I believe in a lot of things, but I really have a hard time with firewalk. I really do.
How come?
I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm a redhead. I've had one too many sunburns.
Yeah, I get it. And look, and you talk about the roller coaster of the mind, because this whole thing is about what your mind can and cannot do, and how your mind impacts your life. And that's a great example of when I can take someone who's terrified. You give me 2 hours with them, and I can get them in the space where they're able to confidently walk across the coals, and they maybe get one little blister, and that's it. Now, I've watched my brother-in-law when he was going for the record again after someone broke his record in the beginning. He went into Eagle, And because he was an ego, he got 3rd-degree burns to both of his feet. See, that's how powerful the mind is. And that's what the mind will do. So, you talk, this is why, and I'll say, I was a disbeliever. I was when I grew up, Lucy, I was an in-the-box thinker. You don't question things. When it comes to work, you do a job that pays you a half-decent income and gives you security, even if you don't like it, because that's what you do to support your family. And that's the way I was growing up.
Well, that's the message that we're all sold.
Right. And depending on the cultures, it depends on, sometimes it's, the only way you're successful is if you're that doctor or lawyer or some other kind of professional. And so that's how kind of I grew up, and it's work hard, stay loyal. And that's what I started doing. Now, I'm a newlywed. I'm 21 years of age. I've now been laid off from my 3rd job because they're downsizing. And I'm going, this obviously isn't working, this working hard and staying loyal. And out of necessity, I actually started delivering pizzas for Domino's Pizza. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Domino's Pizza. Very few people ever have. But
and we have them here in Canada.
That's right. Oh, and see, because I'm Canadian too. What part of Canada are you in?
Oh, right now, I live in Nova Scotia, was raised in Ottawa, and kind of bounced between the two.
Oh, cool. See, and I'm a Central Alberta boy. So
Alberta, there we go. Yeah, we friends in Edmonton.
And you would understand this then. See, we were in 1989 when 1989 when I was laid off from that 3rd job. We were in the middle of an oil bust. So there was no work. So that's why I started delivering pizzas. And because of my work ethic, I actually then got able to become a manager. My wife became my assistant manager, and we went back into our program. We started working open to close 7 days a week. We know how to work hard. And we've been doing that for about 1.5 years. When my franchisee announced, he said, you know what? I'm selling my 2 stores. I've decided to get out of Domino's Pizza. And my wife and I, we went into that oh shit mode. Or let me be clear, I went into it because in my mind, we're about to get laid off again. So my theory was, okay, we need to start talking to other franchisees in Calgary, figure out who needs a manager so that we can then go. Because we know the moment a new owner comes in, they let go of the managers right away so they can bring their own management team in. And my wife's listening to me say, this is what we're going to do. We're going to have to connect with this franchisee. And she looks at me, she goes, why would we do that? Why don't we just buy the store? And I look at her, I'm like, because we don't have any money.
That's what I was thinking too. I'm like, buy the franchise?
Well, and I'm like, because we have no money. And she goes, but we can learn probably. Let's go on that route. And so for the next 4 months, and I'll tell you, I wanted to quit so many times because we would go to someone, they'd guarantee us, I'll get you a loan. We can make this work. It may be a little higher interest. All you have to do is pay me my fee of $1,000 first. And we pay $1,000 that we didn't have. And next thing you know, they're going, oh, sorry, I can't get you a loan. Now, and every time that would happen, something like that, I would want to quit, but she wouldn't let us. And here we are about 4 months later, we're learning from every interaction. And so now we know what to say, what not to say for doing applications, how to make it sound, that we do know what we're doing and stuff like that. And we finally actually went to our own bank. Because back then, and the Canadian banking system, it's hard to get an appointment with a bank account manager that does business, right? And we tried to get a meeting with them, couldn't. But our branch manager loved my wife and I because she'd helped us. She'd watched how hard we worked. She'd helped us buy our first home, stuff like that. So we're sitting in her office one day and she goes, so how's it going with the store? And we're like, not good. We just can't find anyone to help us with the financing. And she's like, well, have you talked to Grant, our business manager? And we said, we've tried to get an appointment. We can't. She's like, come with me. Now, Lucy, I'm going to tell your audience, this is one of the reasons I'm big on keeping great relationships with everybody, including your bank. Don't be the customer that gets upset that something happened. You go and storm and yell and scream. Treat everybody with respect and have great relationships, because all of a sudden she literally stands up, takes us by the hands. We're 23 years of age at this time. She walks us across the bank, knocks on his door and said, hey, Grant, this is Robert and Roxanne Riopel. They're amazing kids. They work hard. They're looking to buy the Domino's Pizza that they manage. Take care of them. And he said, come on in. Now, the 4 months of making a lot of mistakes, we knew what to say, what not to say. Next thing you know, we didn't buy the store. They gave us 100% financing to buy both the stores that my franchisee had for sale. And,
Wow.
yeah, and I'm watching how your eyes popped when I said that. And it's like, all of a sudden we became franchisees, and it's like, because we've now got it made. But the reality is we knew how to run a store, but we didn't know how to run a business. And there's two total differences there. Things like, you guys should get an accountant. No, we can't afford an accountant. We'll do it ourselves. Now, the first 2 years, here was our rule of thumb for being successful in business. If there's money in the bank, we must be doing well.
Not necessarily.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to say, in my previous jobs, I used to actually run the marketing for a large fast food sandwich chain. And it was always about your labor and food costs.
Yes. FLC.
Always labor and food costs. Nothing else mattered.
That's right. Food, labor, and contractors for us.
Yeah.
Our FLCs, they had to be under 58%, or else you weren't making any kind of profit whatsoever. And that's exactly what it was. But for us, because we knew that, like I said, we knew how to run the store, and we didn't know what we didn't know. 2 years later, when we had to get our accounting caught up, because we were in bad shape with our accounting, we finally got it caught up, and people looked at it and goes, how did you guys survive these last 2 years? You should have gone bankrupt many times. Your stores weren't doing much, but you kept your costs, you kept everything paid. How did you do that? And it's because at that point, it was ignorance was bliss. We were just hard workers. But now, as soon as we got an accountant, like every business I do now, my accounting team is there with me as we create the business, buy a business, whatever it is. Because that is, man, I learned that lesson. And so also we started making pretty good money. For us, what was pretty good back then. And next thing you know, by the 8-year mark, because, and Lucy, you've probably never had anybody, you probably know nobody that does this. We started making more money. We actually started spending more money than we were earning. Now, I know that's pretty shocking that people actually do that.
I don't think people do that.
No, we did.
I think so.
And that's why at the 8-year mark, we're now over $150,000 in debt and stressed out beyond belief, going down quickly.
Is this over and above the business loan?
Yeah. Oh no, we had been paying that off bit by bit. This was this was personal debt.
Personal. Okay.
This wasn't even business. No, the business debt. This was personal debt, and that's when we were introduced to personal development. And we went into a 3-day weekend that first educated us, taught us why we were in debt, how it had happened, and second, it taught us to take ownership of it. Quit playing the victim. Quit blaming it on other people. Own that we created our position that we were in. And then we also learned specific skills that if we want to get out of debt, what to do. And then we actually did something that very few people do. The statistic, unfortunately, in North America is only 3% of people will actually use the information that they've learned. Only 3%.
I think 3% is a little high.
Yeah, and because I travel around the world to other countries, a lot of other countries it's a little bit higher, but in North America, wow. So my wife and I, we said, no, we're going to now make a plan. We're going to take action. We're going to do this. And we walked out with the mindset that we now know what we need to do. We now know the decisions we have to make. And we started turning things around. And we were actually able to go from being over that $150,000 in debt, that emotional roller coaster, to actually being retired, completely financially free 9 months later at the age of 32.
Wow. Okay, so I know this is a question everyone's going to ask. How did you do it?
Yeah, well, first thing was understanding what financial freedom is. See, in a lot of people's mind, when I share that part of my story, they go, oh, so you guys went from deep in debt to be completely out of debt and now you're wealthy. No, we're financially free. And the definition of financial freedom is you've got your expenses, your monthly expenses for all the things that you own, all that mortgage, cars, insurances, all that. You have your expenses. And then there's something that we had never learned about or never even knew existed called passive income. Passive income, simply money working instead of you, business and working for you instead of you having to work for it. And so we had huge expenses because one of the traps we fell into is as we became successful, we wanted all the toys, the instant gratification. One of our stores was in a lake community outside of Kelowna, so we had to have a boat. Now, the stupid thing was, our busy season was boating season. So the boat's nicely in our driveway, looking pretty, with all the expenses, but we never used the
You
darn
never
thing.
get to use it.
Never got to use it. I could share a story how we creatively got to use it.
We've owned boats. We've owned boats, and they've sat in the driveway for more times than they sat in the inlet.
Yeah.
And well, you know the acronym BOAT means.
No, please educate me.
It's breaking out another 1,000.
Oh, I like that.
Because it's like every time you'd go to put it in the water, and it would be like something would go wrong, and you'd catch not the rudder, on the engine, whatever. But there's the prop. Yeah, there's always some dumb thing going wrong with a boat, and it was always at least $1,000.
Break out another 1,000.
Breaking another 1,000. It's just like.
Yeah,
I'm doing the motion of the flicking the bills out of the palm.
Well, see, you just reminded me 3 years ago, my wife and I bought this beautiful executive acreage that we live on now. And we did a total renovation of the place, inside and out and that. And the running joke was, anytime we bring a contractor on to give us a quote on any small job, it was an automatic, as soon as they drive in our driveway and saw our property, 10 grand. Every quote started off at least 10 grand. It's like, are you kidding me? Like, really? Yeah. And so my brother-in-law, who used to supervise house building, we would sit there, we'd be chuckling and we'd say, okay, here comes Johnny. He's going to give us a quote on doing trimming the trees, because we have 100 and some odd spruce trees around the house. Said, what do you think? We're like, yeah. So he comes in, he's looking around, he's checking things out because we want to trim the trees up and all that. Comes back, yeah, I can start in about 2 weeks and it'll be about 10 grand. We just started laughing. And this was like, it was so ridiculous. You could predict what people were going to charge. And it was crazy. But anyway, so bring up another 1,000. I like that. Oh. So to get out of the debt, the first thing we did is we started making those hard decisions. What don't we need right now? Right now, that it'd be nice to have it, but if we didn't have it, we'd be okay. Where by getting rid of it, we'd get rid of the expenses and lower expenses down. And so we sold a boat. We had 2 cars because, hey, we're successful. You need 2 vehicles. The stupid thing is, my wife and I were working 7 days a week together. We only used 1 vehicle. So we sold a vehicle, got rid of the expenses, because we were taught the equation that you're financially free when your passive income exceeds your expenses. And so we started dramatically reducing our passive income. We simplified our life like crazy. Those expenses, we started knocking them down. And then we started at the same time learning about passive income, looking at ones, investigating some, doing due diligence, and we were able to find 2 passive incomes where also, as we dramatically brought our expenses down, those 2 started supplying and creating income for us that it only took the 9 months before the 2 surpassed. Now, here's the reality. Were we rich? Were we wealthy? No. Did we still have debt? Yes. But we had enough passive income to do okay where we did not have to work. And here's what that created for us, Lucy. We were working 60, 70, 80 hours a week just to earn a living up to that point. And if I was to take my magic wand and go, Lucy, I'm giving you 60 hours a week extra to do with all what you want. Do you think that you could find some things to do with that extra 60 hours a week?
Absolutely.
Right. So we also had 60 hours a week freed up, minimum. And we took and we focused. We said, we started doing a lot of volunteering to stay in the energy. Now that we're like, wow, if this much information gave us that result, what would more education do? So we became big students. We started learning from everywhere. We started volunteering at events to be in the energy of growth. But we committed 10 hours a week, 10 hours a week to focus on creating wealth. And today I'm a big believer in what you focus on expands, law of attraction. So the moment we started focusing 10 hours a week on creating wealth, all of a sudden the wealth creation became easy because we weren't trying to fight through debt before thinking of it. And here's a big mistake I've noticed thousands of my students around the world have made, is they're financially stressed and they're going, well, I want to be wealthy. And I'm like, let's get you financially free first, so we can free up some time, free up the stress, and then let's focus on creating the wealth, because now you'll come at it from a much better position.
Yeah, and when I think of, whether you call it success or financial freedom, for me, it always comes back to the power to choose. The power to
Yes.
choose how you spend your time, the power to choose if you want to work full time, if you
Yes.
want to work contract, if you want to volunteer. It's just having that freedom of choice.
Totally agree.
And I think that's where people um get tripped up, is because they're striving for what they think that successful image is, which I mean we've all seen the ads on YouTube where some young guys were, rented this massive house on Airbnb for a day, and he's rented a Lambo or whatever it is, and he's out there doing his video saying, "Oh, look at me,
Yeah.
you can have all of this." And it's like,
Yeah.
that's not that's not success, that's not financial freedom, but it's the picture that we're constantly presented.
Yeah, and that's one of the downsides of social media. I love social media, but that's one of the downsides of it. Is think of it. I don't know how old you are, but you're definitely much younger than me.
No, not.
And you do you
I'm
remember the
48.
45?
I'm
Oh, well,
48.
see, you're still almost 10% younger than me.
Yeah, still not much.
Okay, well, you look much younger than that. I will say that. You look much younger. And so you remember the old 45 LPs, the little albums, right?
Still have them.
Yeah, side A was always the greatest hit. Side B was the hit that they hoped would get some traction. And with social media, with everything being so instant today, one of the biggest things that really works hard on people's self-esteem is they look at everybody else's posts on Facebook and Instagram, all the social medias, which is like their greatest hits. And then their mind compares the crap going on in their life, their side B of their life, to the other person's side A, and they wonder why they're miserable. And I love to say to people, never compare yourself to anybody else. Compare
And
yourself to you. Did I take one more step today than
to
yesterday?
where you were yesterday. Yeah, and the comparison game, I mean, it stops so many people from even attempting to follow their dreams,
Yep,
because
absolutely.
it's this constant comparison, when really the only person you can compare yourself to is who you were yesterday.
That's exactly it. And that's it. And this is coming from a former world-class people pleaser right here. And I'll tell you, and especially if I wanted you to like me, because I'm like, oh my God, that person's amazing. I'd be like that lost little puppy, like, and because I'd be doing that, people would be like, get away from me, you freak, right? And when I started to learn that I was putting, and here's the reality, and it's what I believe the greatest gift anybody can give this planet: be you, be authentic.
Yeah.
Because either people are going to like you or they're not. And if they like you, that's awesome. If they don't like you, that's look, there's 8 billion-ish people on this planet. And I looked back at how much time and energy I focused on trying to please people that wanted me to be different than who I was. How much time and energy I wasted on that. The moment I said, look, here's who I am, and if you like me for who I am, not who you want me to be, that freed up that emotional roller coaster for me, which now allowed me then to have energy to focus on things I truly wanted in my life. And even as an example is when my wife and I created our financial freedom, that's when I found my passion. My passion was to teach. I felt if I could even help one person, and I want your audience to understand, my dream started with one person. It didn't dream huge. One person. If I could help one person do what we'd accomplish, go from financial stress to financial freedom, it'd be all worthwhile. And with starting with that one step, I have now, in the last 18 plus years, been blessed to travel around the world several times and personally trained over 500,000 students in 3 to 5 day intensive trainings, anywhere from 100 students to 6,000 students at a time, where I'm on stage up to 12 hours a day, being able to impact lives. But it started with one person. And in the beginning, when I announced, this is my passion, I want to be a trainer, and I was learning the techniques, I was learning the skills, and I got started, I actually had people look at me and they go, you want to be a trainer? And thank goodness I was too tenacious to listen to them. I knew it felt right for me.
And that's it, is that once you hone in on your passion, your purpose, The naysayers will always be there.
Oh yeah, without a
And
doubt.
they're always gonna talk shit and what have you.
Yeah.
Part of them, the ones close to you, your loved ones, are doing it out of their own fear. They don't want to see you fail, because society has this huge misconception around what failure actually is.
Yes.
And then the other part of the group are saying it because they can't see that for themselves, or they're just plain jealous of you.
The law of projection.
Yes.
And that's why I love Don Miguel Ruiz's book, The Four Agreements. One of the agreements, don't take things personally. Because no matter what anybody says to you, even if it feels so personal, it actually has nothing to do with you. They're just going from what's going on inside of them and what they're seeing on themselves, and they're now projecting it onto other people. And so that's what I had to really learn and understand, because again, being that people pleaser, and this is why it's so important to surround yourself with growth-minded people. And I want to make a clarification on that, because and I used to teach this all over the world of, aren't you happy that you're surrounded by like-minded people? And everybody's like, yeah. And then a mentor of mine actually put it into a whole paradigm shift for me. And what he said is, like-minded people, you don't want to surround yourself with like-minded people, because if you're complaining and you're surrounded by like-minded people, you're all complaining, and you're just going to keep complaining. He said a growth-minded person is someone who's going to pick you up when you fall down, be there to support you when you're doing great, but they're also the ones that are willing to have the tough conversations with you and kick you in the ass when it's needed. Plain and simple. And so because I'm surrounded by growth-minded people, if it was left to my own devices, and I have no problem admitting this, if it was left to me and my programming, I wouldn't be here today. I'd be miserable, but comfortable in a job, because that's what I was taught to do. But my wife, one of the gifts we give each other is she will not let me play smaller than I am. She will not let me play that small game. And so and many times it was meant she had to kick me in the ass, step up. And, for your listeners to understand, because in this industry of being trainers too, there's a lot of roller coasters of relationships. And for my wife and I guess we've got something pretty unique. We actually met when we were 13. We started dating when we were 16. We got married when we were 19. And we just celebrated our 32nd wedding anniversary.
Nice.
And she is my best friend. She's my confidant, my coach, the one that knows me better than anybody and sees when shit's going on in my life that I'm trying to bury and not acknowledge. And she'll call me on it. That's a growth-minded friend. That's the people you want to have in your life. And when it comes to success, you're talking about the naysayers. You're right, family and friends. A lot of the times it's not being malicious that they try to stop you. It's that protection out of love. They don't want you to get hurt, like you said. But I love something that I learned from a mentor just as I was getting on the training arena. He was just getting big. And all of a sudden an article came out that crushed him. Someone come to one of the trainings, and just the article in the newspaper that they wrote was just nasty. And it crushed him. And he internalized it, he took it on. And then he thought, I need to let go of this energy. So he phoned a friend who was a very famous author, trainer, had created massive wealth. And he phoned him up and he said, look, I'm frustrated. Oh my God, I can't believe this article. And the guy didn't respond like my mentor thought he would. He actually laughed and he said, congratulations. And he's like, what do you mean, congratulations? He says, you've made it when other people feel they have to start tearing you down. And he all of a sudden got that, wow. And when he shared that story with me, I was like, holy cow, isn't that the truth today? Anybody that's got any kind of success, the people that come out of the woodwork trying to find a way to knock you down. And that's why being true to yourself and being authentic is so key. Because, you can only be you. And that's the greatest gift I believe anybody can give the world.
Definitely. Now you've captured some of your wisdom from your learnings in a book, haven't you?
I have. Yeah. In 2017, I released my first book, which is called Success Left a Clue. And it is 6 simple steps to create the life of your dreams. It really is. But it's not a book you read. See, too many people they read a book, they put it on the shelf, and it becomes that shelf help. Like you and I discussed earlier. Oh, good, you got my joke. I was hoping you were going to get that joke. Some people, I say that and they look at me like this. And for those of you who are just listening, I went to a serious face for a moment.
You went to the what are you laughing at, dude?
Yeah, that's right. Oh my goodness, it's hilarious. But I wrote it as a workbook because step number 3 is take action. And that's one of the biggest differences between success and non-successful people don't take action. So I wrote a lot of action steps into it, and I'll actually sit there and say, before you read any further, do this action. And then the next chapter begins with, did you do the last action? If not, stop reading right now, go back and do the action. Because I know people are creatures of habit. It became an international best-selling book, so I've been really happy about that. And I'm actually writing my second book as we speak right now, which I'm excited about also. So it's cool.
Does that have a title yet?
Yeah, it's called The Authority Key, How to Unlock and Open the Door to Your Success. And so it hopefully will come out at the beginning of next year is kind of the timeline. But what I would love to do, because you were so gracious to have me on as a guest and have a conversation, is if people, I would love for them to read Success Left a Clue. And actually what I'm doing is, since you had me on, is they can actually get the digital copy as a gift. But again, it comes with that caveat. They've got to use it. Don't just read it. Don't just read it and then put it away. They've got to utilize it. So I'd love to do that for your audience.
That is a very generous gift.
Well, thank you.
But, and this is what we're going to get back, going back to your earlier point where you said only 3% of the population ever do anything with what they've learned.
Yeah.
Any theories on why that happens? Is it because people are just lazy? They don't like change. They don't like stepping in their comfort zone.
You want to go down that rabbit hole? if you've got time, I'll give you my full perspective of why I believe that is.
Go for it.
And yeah, it unfortunately, a couple things happen because it all comes from our programming as we're growing up. Everything that we heard, everything that we saw, everything that we experienced growing up, that's conditioned us to how we look at things now. And one of the biggest impacts that we've had on our life is the school system.
Yeah.
See, when we're in school,
don't even get me started on the school system.
I push it, right? Well, and think about this. When you're in school, you're taught that figure it out on your own. Don't look at someone else's work, because if you do, that's cheating. And don't ask other people for help, because that's cheating. You got to figure it out on your own. But yet when we come out of school into the real world, what's the easiest way to get success is to actually find someone who's done what you want to do, model how they did it. But see, our subconscious all of a sudden kicks in and goes, this is awesome. I see a system. I can be successful if I just do what they did. But in our subconscious is going, you don't want to be seen as bad. And so our mind automatically wants to reinvent. This is one of my clues in the book, is that we see a system and then we automatically want to reinvent it. We want to reinvent the wheel before we've ever used it. Yeah, that's right. And not even realizing it, programming has come from what we've learned in school. And so all of a sudden, that's why my clue is, if you want to reinvent the wheel, do it later. Do it later. Get the success first. Follow the system. Get the success. Then if you still want to reinvent it, because at least now you have the success. You're not going to reinvent first and struggle. So that's one of the reasons, is because of how we've been programmed all our life. The other reason is someone will look at, and I say it right in the book, do not let the simplicity of the 6 steps fool you. Because that's the other thing the mind does. It looks at it and goes, it cannot be that easy. Oh yeah, it can. It's not easy. It takes work. It absolutely takes work, but it is simple. If you do A, B, C, D, you follow it in order.
Okay, now this is where I'm going to ask you, because the thing that popped into my head as soon as you were talking about it's not easy. I was told before we hit record, I was telling you about how much I like Les Brown. He wrote the foreword for your book. Now it's Les Brown that says, when you do what's easy, life will be hard. When you do what's hard, life will be easy.
Exactly. Love that quote. Love that quote. And it's so true. But let me add a one extra line to it, or one extra word. It's when you're only willing to do what's easy, life will be hard. But when you're willing, see, you don't always have to do what's hard. But if you're willing, you're showing the universe that, you know what? Even if it's hard, I'll do it. So you're showing that willingness. all of a sudden the universe will bend over backwards to support you. And it's that willingness that makes it go a whole new level. Because I'm not telling everybody that you can always have to go hard, hard, hard and work. No, but you sit there and you have that attitude, that mindset that, you know what, I've made a commitment, it's done. And you're showing that willingness, you'll be amazed at how the world opens up to you. And I've seen it many, many times in my life.
I'm experiencing it. So
yeah,
there's proof is in the pudding.
Exactly.
Robert, where can people connect with you and get their copy of your book?
Yeah, simply it's a really tough website, robertriopel.com. So RobertRiopel.com. And that's where you'll be able to download get the digital copy of the book. They can follow me on Facebook. I have a fan page. And so they just search my name in Facebook. They can find me there. I'm now my assistants are getting me up on Instagram and LinkedIn more and more. So I guess I'm now going to be socially all over the place. So easier to find, but those are the best ways. But definitely go to robertriopel.com, download the digital copy, start using it, start following the system, and watch the amazing things that'll come into your life.
I am going to download that book. And if you are listening and you want to connect with Robert and get your copy of his book, make sure you check out the show notes. I'm going to have all of his links in there. And Robert, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your story.
Yeah, my pleasure. And you taught me something. I love that. I'm going to be running upstairs and telling my wife what BOAT stands for.
Perfect. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Roller Coaster Podcast. Want to chat or share your ideas about today's show? Pop me an email at hello@therollercoasterpodcast.com. Don't forget to connect with me on Facebook and Instagram at The Roller Coaster Podcast. Our theme song, Roller Coaster, was performed by The Lucky Setback. Audio editing by the one and only Jeff Quigley of Quigley Creative.
Life is like a roller coaster, baby, baby. I wanna ride, 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 ride. Life is like a roller coaster, baby, baby. I wanna ride, 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 ride. Roller coaster. Ride, ride.